erections. But the problem, as I mentioned before, comes from not understanding the prostrate gland and its function and what it's put here for and the things that it can do if we just have a working understanding of it. So I'm just going to go over that part one more time so we can all be a little clear here, because it's a fundamental part that you just have to know. We have to know our system. We have to understand our system. Understand the relationship. Understand the constipation impacted manure where people keep 4 to 7 extra meals caked up in their behind. 15 pounds of manure is caked up in the rectum and colon. This manure causes bacteria to migrate to the bladder and prostate. So you can't stay constipated. You got to have 3 bowel movements a day at least.
Is this lecture for men?
This lecture is on the prostate.
Oh, really?
It's not actual discussion. I'm just giving information. I'm going to do one on the uterus in a minute.
Okay.
So actually we have the adrenal glands that sit on top of the kidney, which help make energy. A lot of African people run on adrenaline rather than on the energy from their liver, which means you have a steady energy supply. When you run on adrenaline, you have energy and then you feel tired because you're responding to a crisis situation, living as a slave, I guess. That's a crisis under white supremacy. So we have the bladder. Urine retention causes the bladder to get inflamed, which migrates up to the kidneys and can destroy the kidneys. How we're trained to only urinate when the masters say urinate. You know, hold your urine till lunchtime. Can't have but so many bathroom breaks a day. So a lot of people just hold their urine. It's very bad for ladies because they don't have this long shaft here. They have a shorter shaft, so they are subject to urinary tract infections by holding their bladder, because they don't like to urinate out in public, you know, like in Burger Kings, strange people's bathrooms and things like that. So they walk around holding urine all day. So they're subject to infections. And then we have the seminal fluid and the prostate. We have certain things that give the semen color, some things give the semen smell. Just understanding these 2 glands, one gives it smell, one gives it color, period. There's only less than a half a teaspoon of sperm in your ejaculation. The rest of it is just nourishment to feed the sperm on its traveling, because it can't be really active till it's decapitated within the uterus. That's when the head comes off the sperm, and that's when it can fertilize the egg, because it hits the egg at such a high frequency that it blisters the skin around the egg, and then it seals it in. Because the sperm is vibrated at a high frequency, because it has a tail, as you call it, which is mostly just a melanin cilia hair that's just vibrating electrically and speeding it along, so it hits the egg at such an impact that it causes like the raindrop hitting a puddle of water. It spreads out and then it closes just like that. And we know from the organization of this structure here that something happening to the prostate can inhibit the fertility of the male system, as well as stop ejaculation, as well as cause cancers of all sorts, because you're holding waste in your system. That's the healthy prostate, which allows the urine to come out of the bladder. It's located just below the bladder there, the prostate. And this one here is a diseased prostate. Large, it's constricted, it's stopping the urine. So you have signs and symptoms of prostate problems. That's pain in between the scrotum and the rectum. That's a sign and symptom of prostate problems. When you feel like you're going to need to urinate and you can't urinate, that's a sign and symptom of prostate problem. If you urinate and then a couple dribbles come out, and then a few minutes later some more dribbles come out, that's a sign of prostate problems. Or you just go to the toilet and the urine finds its way out of your penis because it's not being forced out. That's a sign and symptom of prostate problems. Blood in the urine, that's a sign. Pus in the urine. Burning sensation when you urinate. Failure to have erections. All of these are signs and symptoms that something is going on wrong with the reproductive system. But most times the men think as long as they can get an erection, they're all right. But that's not the issue at all. The issue is the vitality of the reproductive system. We went over the vitality earlier, just the simple way of just gauging it, but just looking at the angle of the erection. When your system is vital, like in a boy, The erection is at this angle, you can pee in your face. This is a vital system when the erection is at this point. But when the erection points to the ground, it indicates that the system is deteriorating. You can very easily see that for yourself. It doesn't take a medical examination to figure these things out. And understanding that help is right on its way, just changing the diet and getting into these herbs. Again, as I mentioned before, we're going to get more into the herbs, more into the natural way of treating the disorder with the saw palmetto, which is used for a lot of illnesses of the reproductive system. As I showed you earlier, it's used for premature ejaculation. It's used as a tonic to tone the system. It's used for sperm production. It's used for inflammation. The saw palmetto, the yohimbe, the echinacea. These are herbs that are used for a multiplicity of purposes in treating the prostate and the reproductive system. And we still have to keep in mind where the system is triggered at. It's not triggered by the head of the penis. We went over that earlier. It's triggered by the frenulum. That's what triggers the ejaculation, not the head of the penis. But we have so much misinformation, it's very easy for us to be ill. The key to it is to eat as healthy as possible, stay away from processed foods, fermented foods, try to do more ejaculation or regeneration instead of ejaculation. Understand that the reproductive system of the male is solar, it's lunar, and it's celestial. There are 3 different periods, as the ladies would call it, 3 cycles that run at the same time in the male reproductive system. But we have been taught the logic of a slave, so we kind of focus on the reproductive aspect of the male system. That's when your lungs start activating fast, when you get exciting, when your lungs, you start breathing, you get exciting and sexually aroused. Remember, there's no such thing as a sex drive. There's a reproductive drive. The Europeans came up with this thing called a sex drive. Only time something is driven to have sex is when it's time to reproduce. There's a reproductive drive for plants, animals, man, everything that is alive has a reproductive drive or reproductive cycle. It does not have a sex cycle. A sex cycle is something you teach to slaves. So they focus on the reproductive part of sexual intercourse is when you start breathing and getting aroused. Your lungs are breathing more, so that shuts down your large intestines. See, the system starts playing, I open one door, I close another. It goes into this complementary pair things. The lungs start activating, the large intestine shuts off, your heart starts beating fast, your small intestine shuts off. You need sugar, energy for this activity, so your pancreas is activated, your stomach shuts off. It's just going through a whole lot of gates here. Then it gets into this part 2, or the female aspect of reproduction, or the female principle. That's when the pubic symphysis bone, the bone above your penis, above the uterus, above the vagina, that's when that bone starts separating, which means your bones in your skull begin to move, go into a cycle, go into a orbit. When that happens, you're going into the female aspect of reproduction. That means that the threshold is being triggered. Your blood supply, peripheral, is gone peripheral, then it goes internal, inner, outer. So you get all this peripheral circulation. That causes the blood to be engorged in the penis, which causes it to be erect. Then the blood reaches threshold and withdraws back inside. Then the liver says, let me get rid of the waste and toxins in it, because you're producing lactic acid, waste, and all these things when you create energy. Then the liver is fired off and starts getting rid of the waste from your cellular activities of this whole activity. So the liver gets activated, which means the gallbladder shuts down. So we get all of these opening and closing of doors, and we get into the 2 different phases of sexual intercourse, which we only taught 1. And focusing on that 1 phase of sexual intercourse causes the misinformation, misunderstanding, and the destruction of prostate. We have to look at it more holistically. It's what you eat. You cannot produce healthy sperm eating junk food. You're just going to create children that are deformed with birth defects, and then take the chauvinistic right out and say it's the woman's fault. But it's disease, acid sperm that causes a lot of these problems. Half of all miscarriages and abortions are caused by men. They used to teach it takes 2 to tango. So this whole aspect is part of us being healthy, understanding our relationship to this male and female principle, which the man has and the woman has. And understanding these internal laws and obeying these internal laws will sustain the health of our prostate. And therefore, you wouldn't need a lecture like this anymore. We could go to another level in this conversation altogether. I hope I cleared up some of the misinformation about the prostate so that we all can be healthy and produce a healthier race and have a healthier consciousness and spirituality. I thank you. Okay. No, I'm not doing question. I'm going to the next one.
Okay.
This is just, I came here to tape some lectures. Y'all came in. You're blessed. I'm just taping these things. Now I'm going to do the female reproductive system. I suggest you hang in there for it. Not you, I'm talking about the brothers. Because this has to be known. So a lot of this stuff I'm going to go over that I just did, because these are two separate kind of videos. You had some questions or something before I get started? Or you just... Yes, what we're going to talk about is something that's very important to African people, the African children, and what has become of them in this social environment that we have them living in. The choices are very, very slim as far as to what they are able to eat. The choices of foods, they're limited. There's not a variety of foods in which we had in Africa, in our mother country. So they are suffering from a limited diet, which gives them a limited amount of nutrients and a limited amount of defenses for their health, for their body, for their mind, and their spirit. So we should become more aware of this and try to get as many combinations of foods to them so they can have a combination of nutrients available for them in their journey in life.
about the world of natural medicine, the herbal world of natural cures for disease remedies of the body. What I'm going to try to do is give you a kind of overview of the herbs and some of their actions and how to use them and what specific purposes what herb is used for. In herbal medicine, the science goes back to Egypt and goes before then even down to Sudan. We've found herbs in the tombs and the pyramids, such as fennel. We found licorice. Sandalwood was used to make King Solomon's temple. The herbs have an ancient history, but all that history is avoided in today's climate of herbal medicine. The whole field is controlled by the Europeans, and as you would have guessed, there are very few references made to Africa and African herbology, which founded the science of herbology amongst the Chinese, amongst the Japanese, amongst the Inca Indians, the Aztecs. This knowledge, this nutritional knowledge and herbal knowledge comes from Africa, and it's being translated by other cultures such as the Chinese and Japanese and given to the Europeans, and then from there we take it and try to bring it back to Africa so it can be most applicable to the African body, a body that's highly melanated and highly rhythmic. So whenever we're using herbal formulas, we have to always accentuate or use a combination of herbs to stimulate the pineal gland, which causes a gland reaction, the pineal gland to the pituitary to the hypothalamus, which is what we call it the triangle, the grand triangle. So we always try to stimulate those glands and then work the cure from there, working on a specific organ that we may be interested in, such as the kidney, the lungs, reproductive organs, or the pancreas and spleen, or some muscle illnesses such as rheumatism, or some impurities in the joints which we call arthritis. So first we stimulate the pineal gland, and then we go on with our specific cure when we're dealing with African people.
Institute and Georgia Baptist Medical Center. Llaila has a doctorate in naturopathy and is a certified herbalist, massage therapist, and drugless practitioner. Llaila formerly practiced naturopathy at the Atlantic Center of Naturopathic Health Center or Healthcare and at the Reflexology Clinic. In the Medical Corps of the United States Army in Europe, Llaila, as a psychologist specialist, started taking nutritional and health courses in Italy, Sweden, and Germany. Later in the military, he became continue to simultaneously learn holistic health concepts. Aside from being exclusively on the health food diet and added the complement of the health career, and is a registered holistic health practitioner. Llaila lectures on a broad spectrum of topics over 40 with slide film such as stress control, holistic sex laws, cocaine and AIDS remedies, self-help remedies, weight loss, nutrition, African history, and cures, etc. Additionally, he offers workshops, classes, and nutritional consultations. He designs lectures to meet your group needs. Llaila is the author of African Holistic Health, a book with comprehensive treatment, information, history, and many self-help methods. Also, he is the author of The Gula, a book that focuses on unique Afro-American Sea Island culture that started in 1526. Llaila Afrika hasn't brought any books with him, but throughout the Philadelphia area, you know the bookstores, his books can be purchased. So, with a strong, warm African welcome, we want to bring on to you this brother of great knowledge, this healer, this practitioner, Llaila Afrika.
Be here. I will try to make it as brief as possible so I can cover as much material as possible. And after I finish, of course, I will entertain some questions. What I'm going to talk about is melanin this evening. Seems to be some interest in it for African people finally. When I first studied melanin, it was with white people because they have an interest in it. I want to give you just a little bit of history of it. But first I want to give all praises to our ancestors who brought us here thus far. I'm very thankful for those who prepared a path for us to be here. This is no accident. We are the children blessed by the Son. But I want to give you just a little bit of history about melanin. We all have been taught it in school. If you took any white studies at all, that's public school education and college education. If you took any white studies at all, you were introduced to melanin. Now, there's such a thing as called a molecule or a very small cell. And this very small cell has what they call a nucleus. And the nucleus is composed of melanin. They call it chemistry, which means the study of black. Chem means black. So when you take in chemistry, you're studying black. When you study the molecule, you are studying black because the nucleus of every cell in your body has melanin in the center. What they tell you is that this nucleus particles break off and they spin around the cell. And they call these spinning molecules, little particles of melanin, protons and electrons and neutrons. And they spin around the melanin center. That's all the whole study is about. Everything in the body is reduced to one cell communicating with another cell. And the only way to communicate from one cell to another cell is with melanin. So if you've taken any white studies at all, you have been studying melanin all the time. Everything in the body has to be translated by the cell. Sound comes into your ear as a wave, and first it has to get turned into a cell before it can communicate in your body. Everything gets turned into a cell. When you think, you make a cell. When you hear, you make a cell. Not a jail cell, but a cell. So we have been in melanin studies all along, but they've hid it from us by putting it in our face. Let us see. The only thing I really learned studying melanin in Germany was that they used to make lamps out of our skin because it retains light better. But you wouldn't be interested in seeing any melanin skin lamps. So maybe
Bring before you the owner of Razak's Books, my brother Jay Glass. He's going to introduce Dr. Afrika, the man you've been waiting for patiently. So at this time, I'd like to bring before you my brother, the owner of Razak's Books, Jay Glass Jr. Good evening, everyone. Again, I would like to welcome you here on behalf of Razak's Books and thank you for coming out this evening. Again, I would like to give my greetings to Brother Earl, Brother Nooney, and the rest of the people from East Orange. Again, I'd just like you to know that African Echoes, I tell everybody this at every lecture, but African Echoes has been given one lecture every week for the last 11 to 13 years. And what we like to do is salute African Echoes for their efforts in raising the consciousness of African people and also for their longevity. So again, we salute African Echoes. Part of what we're doing here with Razak's Books is not just a book business, but again, what we're trying to do is incorporate a mindset and raise the consciousness level of the entire community in an effort that we feel will help to unite African people, as Brother Earl said, throughout the coast of New Jersey. So we've been networking with groups in Philadelphia, East Orange, New York, and various other places. I would like to encourage you to get the ReFoul newsletter. We have members of our organization that are getting subscriptions, but again, as a way of supporting African Echoes, we encourage everybody to spend the $6 and get their newsletter. It is pretty informative. They put out some very good information from a very solid African-centered perspective, and what you will be doing is helping to contribute to the development of African Echoes. They've recently purchased their own building, and they're working it out now with the city of Newark to get all the zoning and everything straightened out so that they will have an African community center right there in the heart of Newark. So again, anything that we can do to support them, we would like to do, and just your $6 subscription will help them quite a bit. So I'd like to encourage that. I'd also like to encourage those of you that can to come out and support Sister Kathy McBride tomorrow. For the last couple years, I'm a state correction officer, and for the last this would be my third year now, I give a little statistical breakdown on some of the statistics behind violence and crime and some of the other things as part of her program. So in an effort, again, to network everything that we're doing, we all try and work together in the small ways that we can. What we've done here with our lecture series is hopefully started to lay a foundation that can then help in the development of African nationhood. We opened up in November with Attorney Alton Maddox. He came down and his topic was, can blacks achieve freedom under the U.S. Constitution? And he gave us a very good object lesson in how the Constitution affects us as Africans and really helped us put in perspective where we stand in relationship to the United States government. The next month, we brought in Brother Tyrone Powers, former FBI agent and a former Maryland State Trooper, who then not only told us about his experiences in the FBI, but again gave us a picture of how the government looks at us as African people to again help us develop our mindsets and our strategy and what we wanted to do. Following that, we brought in Brother Del Jones, who gave us a global perspective on the African Revolution and some of his keen insights on some of the internal workings of revolutionary movements. Again, keeping right in line with what with what we're trying to develop here. Last month, we brought in Dr. Tony Martin. Dr. Martin gave us a very powerful intellectual type of lesson in other movements that have done this before. He used the perfect example of Marcus Garvey and the UNIA, but he helped again tie that into what we're doing here in with a historical perspective. He spoke of the Black Books movement and the whole idea of African consciousness raising and how that can be incorporated with economic development and everything else. And at this time, as we're preparing to embark on what we wanted to do, we felt that it was important that we now bring in someone that can help us get not only our mind straight, but our physical bodies in order. And that's why we brought Dr. Afrika in, and it's keeping right in line with our developmental theme. Dr. Afrika is a health consultant, historian, lecturer, and author of the best-selling African-centered, African-interested health book in American history, African Holistic Health. He has a Doctor of Naturopathy diploma and was the first African-American to lecture before the World Vegetarian Congress. He has over 17 years of experience in the holistic health field and is one of the pioneers in traditional African ethnomedicine, which is health care based on the biochemistry of Africans. Holism means that everything, such as air, water, fire, earth, electricity, colors, and metal has a form, psychic and spiritual energy state. This holistic concept was a part of African cultures that existed before the Sahara Lake became the Sahara Desert, says Dr. Afrika, in explaining the idea of African holistics. Dr. Afrika, a true genius of traditional African holistic medicine, comes to us this evening to address his latest book, Nutricide, the Nutritional Destruction of the Black Race. He will also answer your questions and sign your books. Tyrone Paris, when he was here, when we brought him in December, he encouraged us to get in touch with Dr. Afrika at that time. He said he had been in Chicago and he had seen Dr. Afrika and told him he was coming to Trenton. And he encouraged us at that time to get in touch with Dr. Afrika and bring Dr. Afrika to Trenton. Well, since December, we've been talking to Dr. Afrika. We tried for January and the logistics didn't work out, so we had Del Jones. We even had the idea of bringing Del Jones and Dr. Afrika together. But again, the logistics didn't work. But finally, we've been able to work it out to where he's here with us this evening. And with that, brothers and sisters, I'd like to bring you a true genius in African ethnomedicine, Dr. Imhotep Llaila Afrika.
I have to do something technical for a moment. Is that mesh? You can see that? You can see this? Yes. Okay. I guess we're all right. Well, let me get started then. Can I move this thing here?
Yes, sir.
If it stays here, I may act like a preacher, you know, and ask for some money or something, pass the plate.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'm all right. All right. Yeah, I'm okay. Well, my brothers and sisters, it's always a pleasure to be before you. My ancestors brought me here just like they brought you here. Despite everything, we came this far. So it must be something inside of us really very strong that nobody can take out of us. And I'm going to try to appeal to that within us this evening. My background is in what they call ghettonese, in that I was raised in the ghetto. Everything else was merely decorations. I studied in the traditional white racist schools and learned how to hate myself and people that look like myself. I don't believe I've learned anything from white people, not at all. Even in medical school, they did cheat. I learned how to cheat there. I mean, all the doctors cheated. Some of the doctors even failed headache, you know. So I approached health maybe in the 70s, and I started changing my diet and started reading a lot and trying to get a better handle on what was going on health-wise. And I started asking historians about it, and they were eating pig feet and things like that.
Doc Ben and people. But seriously, so I began to know that those questions that I needed answers to, I had to go about it on my own. So I began to accumulate a lot of information in my search for these answers. So people said, you sure know a lot about it, and told me I should write that down, and it led to me writing African Holistic Health, which was basically my notes from just reading and talking and going around the world and things like that. So I kind of put those things down. Over the years, my biggest struggle in health has been to get African people to understand that health is a political and social word. It has nothing to do with you at all. It's just this political and social term, and that's how we approach health. We see someone who has the success of a Michael Jordan or a Michael Jackass, or whoever the person is, and we see them eating a hamburger with some bacon on it, and since we can't have the money that they have, we at least can eat like they do. And so we start eating like these celebrities, the Queen Latifahs and all those people. Get her on the bus, or whatever the movie was she was in. And I forget what she played a homosexual. What was that movie? Set It Off, yeah, Queen Latifah, yeah. Well, in any case, what I'm essentially trying to say is we have to start looking at health from an African perspective and understanding that we have to use our African sense, which people call your common sense. Now, most of us don't really know what food is. We really think that since we put it in our mouth, it has to be food. But that doesn't define what food is. Food is something that enhances your life, something that stimulates the vitamins and minerals already present in your body. Food does not add any vitamins and minerals to your body. It just enhances what's already there, either in a negative way or positive way. Now we have the Europeans who basically specialize in processing food, which you could call seasoning food. They process food and they process people. They use the same technique on the food industry that they use on African people, so we should really understand this thing without any problems at all. Now, essentially a processed food is something that the body does. The body takes in some yellow corn or whole wheat or apple or pear, and the liver does something to it. Your liver and your kidney does something to the apple, and your pancreas does something to the apple, and your small intestines and your large intestines. All of these organs process the food, and the end result of that apple is you get a processed food, which you call a bowel movement. Then you go to the store and you buy the food already processed. So essentially what you're eating is because it's already processed, and that's what causes the problem. Then it gets inside your stomach, and your stomach says, hey, it's already processed. What you want me to do with this shit? I mean, what you want me to do with this? You know? And so the deodorizers that are in the bleached white flour and the white sugar come out of the food, and then you start smelling the fumes of the food. Since it's already processed and rotten when you take it in, they add all these deodorizers to it, and you think it's all right. But the body's enzymes take away those deodorizers, and then you start smelling the fumes of this rotten food.